I decided it was important to share my testimony, but I'm going to give the short version because it's so detailed and complicated that it would take forever. And I'm just going to get into the details in other videos. But, to be honest, no part of me ever wanted to do a YouTube channel or anything like this. It's just not my personality. I'm more of a one-on-one kind of person, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable. I don't like being in the spotlight at all. But in my experience, most of the time, I recognize God's voice because the things He tells me to do are not things I want to do. Normally are things that make me uncomfortable or afraid, and that's normally how I know that it is God. And I actually considered deleting this YouTube pretty much the second I posted any video, because I just don't want to do it. And yesterday, I saw a video, this random video popped up that a ministry that I follow, shared, and I watched it, and it was a girl just like me, with just a brand new YouTube channel, and she was saying that, for those of us out there that God is called to do this, we're resisting it, we're fighting it, and being disobedient, and that she had come back on, her channel because she wanted to be obedient to God. And she was saying the same things, that, this is not her personality at all and not what she wants to do, but she felt like she had to be obedient to God. And that's how I feel, and that's the only reason I'm doing this YouTube channel. So like I said, I'm going to give the short version, because I have so many things to talk about that it overwhelms me. Like if you're watching TV and you have 100 different options, you'll sit there forever just trying to pick something because you have too many options, or too many options on a menu at a restaurant. That's kind of how I feel, because, I've said multiple times, the kinds of things that have happened in my life or that I've witnessed God do are so numerous that I could write volumes of books about it. Like, it's just crazy. So, it really overwhelms me to think about where even to begin. And so today I thought I'll begin with the short version of my testimony. So I grew up in a very small town, in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever heard of. And, we were pretty poor. My dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My mom grew up Catholic, and my dad grew up Baptist. So it was really confusing, as far as God is concerned. Neither of them really took us to church. My mom took us to church for a couple of years when maybe I was in like 6th and 7th grade, but that was about the extent of it. I learned more about God from my mom than my dad, and I was closer to my mom's family than my dad's. So I leaned the Catholic way, but I really didn't know anything. And, I never had a time in my life that I could say that I considered myself an atheist. I always believed in God, and I always prayed. Every night before I went to bed, up until before I got saved, I prayed every night. But I was just completely ignorant to the things of God. So, like everyone else's family, and everyone else's experience in life, there was trauma in my life. There was wounds in my childhood, that severely affected me, especially from extended family. And by the time I was probably an adolescent, but coming into my teenage years, I started rebelling hard, and I mean hard. So my teenage years were just full of parties and drinking, and just experimenting with every kind of sin. um, and so when I was 18, I got pregnant with my one and only child, who is 17 now. Um, and I think there was a time that I thought I loved his dad, but I wasn't ready to get married. And I felt extreme pressure from my family to get married and not have my baby out of wedlock. So I did. And we were only married for 2 years. And then almost immediately after I left my first husband, I got into a relationship with another man that I was with for 10 years. And once I got into that relationship, like, my personality really changed. That's when I really heavily got into partying and drugs. I was addicted to drugs from 21 to 25. And by the grace of God, I was delivered from that. And I mean, completely delivered. I haven't done any drugs since I was 25. I'm 36 now. But it was a very tumultuous relationship. But we actually got married after we were together for 6 years. And I was 26. And we got married. And 1 year after we got married, I got saved. And it was very radical. It was like one of those overnight total changes. And naturally, that caused big problems in my marriage, because I was a completely different person. And within a year of being saved, I went back to college, Bible college. I somewhat knew I was being called into ministry. I was a baby Christian, so I was pretty legalistic and, just so aware of my sin and just, trying to do everything right and only listen to Christian music and only dress this way and, just a baby Christian. And it was really unattractive to my husband. So the first couple years of that, he really hated the changes in me. But towards the end, it really started to feel like he was coming around and was more interested, more open to, Christianity. And then all of a sudden, it just blew up. And some very traumatic things happened in my marriage, and it ended 3 years after I got saved. And that was 5 years ago. So my husband and I split up, my second husband, and I was on my own. And the last 5 years of my life have been the craziest. The trials I've went through, I never knew that kind of pain existed. And on the flip side, the things I experienced with God, I also never knew existed. So it was very bittersweet, because God really is close to the brokenhearted. So I started in ministry, in youth ministry. I started working with foster kids, not just foster kids, but just troubled youth in general, but mainly foster kids. And I've been doing that for the last 5 years. And it's been a joy, moving in my calling. Like, it's truly been a joy working with these kids. It's changed me so much. It's matured me so much. The trials I've been through have matured me. It doesn't make them any easier, but I'm so different than I was when I first got saved. So that's what I've been doing. I've been a single mom, just me and my 17-year-old, for the past 5 years. And, like I said, there's way more details that I will go into in other videos, but that's the gist. That's the gist of my testimony. And I just kind of wanted to share that so that whoever comes across these videos can kind of see where I'm coming from and my background. And maybe you can relate, or at the very least, understand why I think the way that I do. And I'll be posting more videos on specifics like drug addiction, cessationism, working with foster kids, standing for marriage, um, dreams from God, how to know when God speaks to you, suffering as a Christian. I just have so many things to talk about that I'll be getting into soon.